All right, let's dive into Machiavelli's The Prince.
Yeah.
We've got some fascinating excerpts here from the book's dedication and intro to chapters that really get to the heart of grabbing and holding on to power. This is going to be fun.
I think so.
So first things first, The Prince was written in 1532.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a time of political turmoil in Italy.
Oh, absolutely.
And Machiavelli himself
Right.
was a seasoned diplomat.
Uh-huh.
He was exiled from Florence
Right.
when the Medici family took back power.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely writing from a place of experience.
He is.
What makes The Prince so unique?
Well, it's not just about observing power.
Yeah,
It's a guidebook for rulers on how to get it and keep it.
yeah.
And Machiavelli, he doesn't shy away from suggesting that sometimes rulers have to choose pragmatism over morality.
Oh, really?
It's pretty shocking.
Okay, all right. I am ready for some Machiavellian wisdom.
Okay.
Let's start with that dedication to Lorenzo de Medici.
Okay, so this is where things get a little ironic.
Yeah.
Machiavelli was hoping to regain a position in the Florentine government, right?
Right.
So he dedicated the book to Lorenzo,
Uh-huh.
this young, inexperienced Medici heir.
Oh.
But Lorenzo's character was pretty much the opposite of the savvy, powerful prince Machiavelli described. So, talk about an awkward job application.
Ouch.
Right.
I wonder if Lorenzo ever, figured that out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so after the dedication,
Right.
Machiavelli gets into classifying all the different types of states.
Yeah, he breaks them down into hereditary, mixed, and new principalities.
Okay.
And each type has its own challenges. But Machiavelli believed new principalities were the toughest to govern.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. When there's a change in power,
Yeah.
people have all these hopes for a better life.
Uh-huh.
And if things don't improve quickly,
Right.
they're more likely to revolt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You've got to keep them happy.
Yeah,
So ruling a brand new principality
Right.
requires some serious finesse.
it does.
Now, I know to illustrate his points,
Yes.
Machiavelli uses historical figures like Cesare Borgia.
Yeah, the son of Pope Alexander VI.
Right.
Borgia was ambitious and ruthless.
Yeah.
But ultimately, his quest for power failed.
So classic rise and fall.
Yeah.
Are there any specific moments that stand out as particularly in Machiavellian?
There's one that comes to mind.
Okay.
The tale of Ramiro d'Orco.
Okay.
So Borgia appointed d'Orco as governor of Romagna to restore order.
Okay.
d'Orco was effective,
All right.
but his methods were brutal.
Okay.
So to quell resentment, Borgia eventually had him executed and publicly displayed.
Oh, wow.
And, he pinned all the blame on d'Orco.
Really?
It was a calculated move to appease the people.
Wow.
Or it raises this chilling question, how far is too far when it comes to maintaining power?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
This all makes me think about the role of luck versus strategy in gaining power.
Okay.
How much of it's just being in the right place at the right time?
Yeah, so Machiavelli actually acknowledged the influence of luck, or fortune, as he called it.
Okay.
But he strongly believed that a prince's abilities, what he termed virtu, played a critical role.
Virtu. Okay.
Yeah. Think of it like this. Fortune might deal you a good hand, but it's your skill that determines how you play it.
Right.
You know?
So a successful prince needs to be able to spot an opportunity
Yes.
and seize it.
Exactly.
Now, are there any examples from history that really exemplify this idea of virtu?
Yeah, so Machiavelli was particularly impressed by Castruccio Castracani,
Okay.
who rose from common origins to become Prince of Lucca.
Okay.
Even with limited resources,
Mhm.
Castracani's skills and alliances
Yep.
allowed him to make his own luck.
Wow.
It shows that a strategic mind can sometimes overcome even the most challenging circumstances.
So virtu is all about being proactive and making your own destiny.
It is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious about Machiavelli's thoughts on how a prince should build his army.
Well, you won't find him recommending mercenaries.
Right.
In fact, he was vehemently against them,
Okay.
calling them disunited, ambitious, and without discipline.
Yeah.
Essentially, he believed they were only motivated by money
Right.
and would abandon their employer at the first sign of trouble.
Makes sense.
Right.
You can't really expect loyalty
Mm-hmm.
from someone who's just in it for a quick payday.
Exactly.
So what was his solution?
Citizen armies.
There.
Soldiers who had a genuine stake in their state's success
Okay.
would be more motivated and loyal,
Right.
willing to fight for their own interests.
Interesting.
It's like patriotism today.
Yeah.
It has some similar roots.
Oh, yeah, that's a great connection. It shows that even 500 years later, these fundamental questions about leadership and loyalty and power are still relevant.
They are. They are.
And speaking of power,
yes,
Machiavelli's metaphor of the lion and the fox really gets to the heart of how a prince should wield it.
Yeah.
Right. Can you refresh our listeners' memory about what this metaphor is all about?
Okay, so it highlights the need for moral flexibility in leadership.
Okay.
To succeed, a prince needs the strength of a lion and the cunning of a fox.
Yeah.
Sometimes this means choosing pragmatism over conventional morality.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting, right? I mean, it forces us to consider those tough choices leaders often have to make.
Yeah.
I mean, would you say it's ever justifiable to bend the rules, even break them for the sake of the greater good?
That's a tough question.
It is.
It seems like navigating the world of power requires making some difficult decisions.
It does. It does.
All right, so much to think about already.
Yeah.
And we've just scratched the surface.
We have.
Of the prince.
Yes.
This is so interesting.
It is.
Where should we go next?
I think we should dive into that intriguing idea of fortune versus free will.
Okay.
It's a theme that runs throughout The Prince, this constant interplay between chance and human agency.
I am ready.
All right.
Let's unpack it.
Okay.
So we're back, and man, things are getting pretty intense with Machiavelli's The Prince.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of wrestling with this idea that the leader might have to choose, pragmatism over morality.
Yeah.
It just seems so cold-blooded.
It can be a bit unsettling.
Yeah.
But remember, to truly grasp The Prince, you have to understand Machiavelli's perspective on human nature.
Okay.
And he wasn't exactly an optimist.
Right.
He believed humans were fundamentally self-interested, driven by ambition and a hunger for power.
Okay, so he saw, humanity's darker side playing out on the political stage.
Absolutely.
So he observed that rulers who clung to idealism or traditional morality often lost their grip on power.
Yeah, and sometimes even their lives.
Wow.
It's a high-stakes game.
So in a way, Machiavelli is saying,
Yeah.
this is how the world really works, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
He wasn't trying to be a moral philosopher.
Right.
He was a realist, offering a very pragmatic approach to leadership.
Okay.
One that acknowledged the harsh realities of the political landscape.
All right, I'm starting to see the method behind the so-called madness.
Good.
Let's get back to his strong stance against mercenaries.
Okay.
Why was he so convinced they were such a bad idea?
Well, he saw them as liabilities.
Okay.
Unreliable, expensive,
right? Yeah.
And likely to turn on their employer when things got tough.
And he blamed them for the weakness of Italian city-states?
He did. Machiavelli argued that Italy's over-reliance on mercenaries had left it vulnerable to foreign powers, like France and Spain.
Right.
Remember that vivid quote about King Charles of France seizing Italy with chalk in hand? Yeah. I mean, it shows how easily mercenary-protected territories were conquered.
So it's like he's saying, you're only as strong as the loyalty of your army.
Exactly.
And in Machiavelli's view, that loyalty was best found
in citizen armies.
Okay, citizen armies.
Yeah.
Citizens with a personal investment in their state's success would fight harder and stay loyal.
Right.
That makes sense. But how do you create that level of commitment?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, how do you motivate citizens to risk their lives for the state?
Right.
Well, Machiavelli suggests promoting patriotism and civic virtue, but he also emphasizes the importance of fair and just governance.
Okay.
People are more likely to defend a system that they believe in.
Yeah.
Right.
So it sounds like Machiavelli believed that military strength is only one piece of the puzzle.
It is.
Leaders also need to win the hearts and minds of their people.
You're right. And this brings us back to that idea of appearances.
Okay.
Machiavelli believed that a prince's public image played a huge role in maintaining power.
Yeah, he understood that perception is often reality.
It is.
A prince who appears strong and virtuous commands respect, even if things are a little messier behind the scenes.
Exactly. That's the point Machiavelli drives home.
Right.
Sometimes a leader needs to be a master of dissection, to dissemble and make decisions that go against their true nature.
Wow.
To preserve stability.
It's like a political version of fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Though I guess Machiavelli would argue they're not really faking it if it works.
You've got it.
Right.
It's all about achieving those desired outcomes.
Yeah.
And this Machiavellian pragmatism extends beyond appearances to strategic decision-making.
Right.
Even when those choices seem cruel or heartless.
Right.
Remember the story of Cesare Borgia?
Yeah.
Executing Ramiro Dorco?
Yes. That was a brutal move. But you said Machiavelli saw it as politically savvy.
He did.
Okay.
By sacrificing a single man.
Yeah.
Even a loyal one.
Uh-huh.
Borgia appeased the masses and strengthened his control.
Wow.
I mean, it's a chilling demonstration of how far a leader might go to secure power.
Right. It makes you think.
It does.
About where we draw the line between effective leadership and outright tyranny.
Exactly. It's like walking a tightrope.
It is.
And Machiavelli, the provocateur, makes us confront that tension between conventional morality and the harsh realities of power.
His writing doesn't really give you any easy answers, does it?
It doesn't. It throws us into the deep end and makes us think.
I think that's the beauty of it.
It is.
We're still debating his ideas centuries later.
We are.
Because they force us to grapple with some uncomfortable truths. Well, he's certainly given us a lot to ponder.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm leaving this deep dive feeling a little more Machiavellian myself.
I hope that means you feel more empowered
to
navigate the complexities of the world around you.
Yeah, and maybe a little more aware of the subtle power dynamics that are at play in everyday life.
That's a valuable insight. Remember, knowledge is power.
That's right.
And now that you've delved into Machiavelli's world, you're equipped to approach those dynamics with a more discerning eye.
Well, thank you for guiding us through this complex and fascinating material.
The pleasure was all mine.
It's been an enlightening conversation.
Good.
And to our listener.
Right.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Machiavelli's The Prince. We hope it sparked your curiosity and given you some new insights to consider.
Absolutely.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
Yes.
And never underestimate the power of strategy.
That's right.
Until next time, happy reading. Man, this deep dive into Machiavelli's The Prince has been a wild ride.
It has.
We've explored some pretty dark and controversial ideas about power and strategy and human nature.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how relevant
I know
these ideas still feel, even though the world has changed so much since the 16th century.
Well, it speaks to the enduring power of Machiavelli's observations, right?
Right, yeah.
He really tapped into something fundamental about human behavior and the dynamics of power, regardless of the era.
We've spent a lot of time focusing on those, ruthless tactics and moral flexibility.
Right.
But is there more to Machiavelli?
Oh, absolutely.
Than just, power grabs and manipulation?
The Prince is just one piece of a much larger body of work.
Right.
Machiavelli also wrote histories and plays and even poetry, offering a wider lens on his political philosophy.
So there's more to him than just the ruthless pragmatist of The Prince.
Definitely, yeah. His discourses on Livy, for example, explores his thoughts on republican government.
Okay, so he also considered republics.
It reveals a side of Machiavelli that's often overlooked.
So was he a proponent of republics over monarchies?
He saw strengths and weaknesses in both forms of government.
Okay.
While he believed republics could be more stable and just, he also recognized the challenges of maintaining a republic in a world where power is constantly contested.
Right. It's a tough balance.
It is.
It makes you wonder if maybe we've oversimplified Machiavelli over the years, reducing him to just this, like one-dimensional, cynical strategist.
It's a common misconception. He was a complex thinker, always willing to challenge conventional wisdom.
Right.
He even proposed radical solutions for his time. In many ways, he was ahead of his time.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive.
Yeah.
What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember about The Prince?
I think it's important to remember the context.
Okay.
Machiavelli was writing during a period of intense political upheaval, constant warfare in Italy.
Right.
His advice was shaped by the world he lived in.
So we need to be cautious about applying his ideas directly to modern times.
Exactly. A lot has changed in 500 years.
Yeah.
But even though the specific challenges Machiavelli addressed may no longer be relevant, his insights into human nature and the dynamics of power remain timeless.
Like his observations about ambition and greed and the never-ending pursuit of power. Those are still driving forces in the world today.
Right, just as they were in the 16th century.
Just like they were back then.
And the ideas we discussed about strategy, adaptability, the importance of appearances, they all hold value, even today.
It's funny how advice intended for a Renaissance prince can still resonate in the 21st century.
That's the mark of a truly insightful thinker.
It is.
Machiavelli provides a framework for thinking about power, leadership, and human nature that transcends any specific time period.
It's definitely a framework that's both challenging and illuminating.
It is.
It makes you question your assumptions and look at the world through a different lens.
It does. Even though Machiavelli has a reputation for being cynical and immoral, there's a surprising amount of wisdom in his work if you're willing to look for it.
He makes you confront uncomfortable truths.
He does.
And think deeply about power and leadership.
Yeah.
It's not always an easy journey.
It's not.
But it's certainly thought-provoking.
It is, absolutely. For anyone willing to engage with his ideas, Machiavelli can be an incredibly rewarding guide.
Well, I have to say, I'm leaving this deep dive feeling a little more Machiavellian myself.
I hope that means you feel more empowered.
I do.
To navigate the complexities of the world around you.
And maybe a little more aware of the subtle power dynamics at play in everyday life.
That's a valuable insight, remember. Knowledge is power.
It is.
And now that you've delved into Machiavelli's world, you're equipped to approach those dynamics with a more discerning eye.
Well, thank you for guiding us through this complex and fascinating material.
It was my pleasure.
It's been an enlightening conversation.
I'm glad to hear that.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Machiavelli's